Welcome to the Centaur Podcast. I'm Camron Adibi, and together we'll explore the fascinating world of horse-human communication and the extraordinary connections that can develop between our species. In each episode, I interview individuals who share a genuine love for horses and a willingness to spread the love to others. This podcast is for anyone interested in discovering the incredible possibilities these animals have to offer. Camron Adibi is an equine artist and painter residing in a small town in the Oregon High Desert. Her work is inspired by the natural beauty of her surroundings and the horses she encounters. With a background in fashion design, she previously collaborated with Royal Robbins, a prominent figure in the early climbing community of Yosemite and the founder of Royal Robbins Clothing. Camron has exhibited her artwork at significant events such as the World Equestrian Games in France and the Scottsdale Arabian Horse Show. She expresses her artistic philosophy by stating, quote, "Painting is almost like sculpting. I feel the essence and character of landscapes and animals as the work unfolds," end quote. You can learn more about her work at camronadibi.com or on Instagram at Colors of the Horse. If you like this show, please share with your friends and family. Please check me out at my Substack, which is The Centaur by Camron Adibi. And there you can learn about some free offerings. And again, thanks so much for your support. Now sit back and enjoy the show. Okay, I am speaking with Camron Adibi. I am so excited about this. This is another connection that happened just through the horses. We got somehow connected. This is I think Jeff Moore is our common denominator, and that's through another friend of ours. And this is so cool because you're on the West Coast, I'm here on the East Coast. I guess this is why I love podcasting. So, Camron, so great to meet you and start to learn more about who you are and what you do. But I guess we got to just jump right in. You have some. We're gonna. If you get on the YouTube channel, you can see some of her beautiful artwork. So, we've known that the earliest known artwork depicting horses is almost 25,000 years ago in the caves in France. My question to you is, why do you think we continue to capture horses in artwork?
Well, I personally think that horses are nature's living works of art. I think their curves and their shapes and the relationships they have with each other are just so stunningly beautiful. Back then, it seemed that they depicted many of the herd animals, probably what they used for hunting and food, possibly, but still, some of those incredible paintings in the caves that you're talking about in France are so inspiring to me, and thinking that people were artists all the way back then. It's in us. We see beauty and we have to relate it somehow. And I find this amazing connection with the people, like you said, 25,000 years ago or 40,000 years ago or whatever it was. It's just amazing to think that back then people were creating art just like us.
Just like us. Technically we haven't changed much as a human species, for better or worse, but we still have some of the same kind of desires. And so on the screen, I've got the ancient one, which is very much, I'm looking at this piece of yours, and it very much looks like cave art. Can you tell me a little bit more, tell us a little bit more about your artistic journey and how you developed your work, and maybe a little bit about the ancient one here?
Okay. Yeah, I'll start with the ancient one just because it was a fun one to paint. I was stressing out a little bit about how the horses were getting a little rotund in the summer. And so I always try to take my worries and turn them into something a little more fun and charming instead of the worry. So I painted ancient ones as horses have gone through this. They're seasonal, and all the way back to the cave paintings, those little pork chop of horses they're painted so beautifully with their little heads and their feet and the shapes of their bodies and the colors. So I just was taking a moment of stressing about my horse being slightly overweight and turning it into art.
I love it. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's I know exactly what you're talking about, but you do have a unique style. I mean, and I lived out west. I see how the landscape is a big part to me. But how did you develop your style?
It's really interesting, actually. I used to paint in oil, and I found out that it was limiting my speech, just like now.
Okay, great.
But it was I used to paint in oil, and I learned that oil was limiting my ability to speak. It was something that no one had really heard of, but I'm one of those sensitive people, and so I had to switch to acrylic because of the oil, and we don't really know what it was. When I switched, I had to find a new way of painting because acrylic dries much faster than oil. And so I started to experiment with the acrylic the same way I had painted in oil, but I didn't have the time. The drying time was so fast. And so I started to just sort of work with it and problem solve and think, oh, okay, well, I guess there's just going to be texture there. And then if I do a little dry brush over that, oh, cool. I just started experimenting and working with the medium instead of trying to make it. It's kind of like horse training. You can't make it be something it isn't. So you work with the situation, and pretty soon I started really enjoying it because of the texture and all the layers. And I do a dry brush technique that picks up the whatever you put down. It just, every time you run the brush over, it only goes on the highest points. So pretty soon you have like 8 different colors behind in all the layers, and you can see all the colors. And so that's how I got to the point where I was painting so colorfully.
Yeah, and I can see that. So I just pulled up again for those people who are on YouTube. Well, I pulled up Coming In. And that kind of, just as you were saying that, I felt like that's kind of how this is like really cool for those who are not on YouTube. This is a really cool herd moving towards the viewer. And I would say they're anonymous almost. You can't really see who they are. You can see their silhouettes mostly. And they're kind of walking towards the viewer. What was this inspiration and can you this is do you use images, or are you using it from memory, or both? How does this happen for you?
In that one, I had gone out to the Steens in Oregon. It's Eastern Oregon, and there are some wild horses out there. So I had purposefully gone out to take photographs of wild horses. And it's a really wild area of Oregon still. It's there's big ranches, and it's wide open space, and the Steens Mountains are beautiful, very windswept and worn from weather. And so I had been out. It was kind of a warm couple days, so there weren't that many horses being very active. So I saw a young band of the Mustangs, the stallions, and they were younger, so they were more active. So I kept taking pictures of them, but they were way off in the distance, and they kept kicking up dust, and then they would trot. I don't know why they were trotting towards me. They weren't actually trotting towards me, but there was something that kept getting their interest. So there were only about 3 of them. And what I did with that was I took photographs, and they were way off in the distance, and they were kind of backlit. And so I was just I took about, I don't know, 6 or 7 photographs, and then I kind of piecemealed the photographs together. So it's actually only 3 stallions, but they're all coming in together, and I made it kind of a family. of what I wished that I had seen. And then on my drive home, it was so beautiful. There was a sunset and there was mist in the air. It was sort of raining. And one of those skies that just turned bright yellow. It was such a yellow sky. It was beautiful in the way the light hit it. And so when I got home and immediately started painting that painting, trying to memorize that yellow color in the sky right before a storm and the sun hits the mist in the air. And so then I thought, oh, it's a complementary color of yellow, and that's purple. So that's why they're kind of a rusty purpley color.
Very good description. And I look when I see this, it's like a poem. And you mentioned speech. I mean, I think this is how a horse would speak. They would see something like this. So it's very cool to hear how you did that, because there is a realism and there's a dreaminess to it as well. And it's very Western. Western landscape, not Western style, but Western landscape, because it has that massiveness to it, which you captured. And, you have this upcoming show called The Color of Horses. Now I just pulled up on the screen Forest Boys. And now this is very interesting because I really like your use of color, but now this is more on the abstract side to me. But can you tell us a little bit more about the this upcoming show, The Color of Horses, and maybe tie in with Forest Boys 2, by the way, not 1. I would like yeah, good.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to talk about that. I've had this idea for the last couple of years, and I'm finally pulling it together and actually creating it. And the idea is, so I started out with the idea of a color wheel. And the color wheel, you think of a color wheel of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. And then I was thinking, well, if I can't just do a huge painting, I was thinking just this massive room with these huge paintings of just color. And I was thinking, well, Kimmery, you would get bored and you paint horses. So then I thought, wow, what if it was horse colors? So it's the color, it's called the colors of the horse. And it's an idea about how in horse colors, the way horses are, they have their colors. I didn't know this. It's actually really interesting to me. They all start with black or chestnut or red. So chestnut or sorrel. And that's the red color. And I just find it so interesting that all horse colors stem from black or chestnut. And then you have the gray factor. So you have the white fur. And then you have the black tips. So that's another gene. And all of the colors are either mixed fur together, like a blue roan is black, gray, and white hairs mixed together, and it looks bluish. Or it's diluted. So it's like a black is diluted into a buckskin, or a chestnut is diluted into a palomino. And I just find it so fascinating, and that's kind of how I mix colors, actually. I just enjoy mixing colors so much, and I was just thinking about how cool it would be if well, I'm going to make it a 20-meter circle, and you walk into the 20-meter circle, which has to do with dressage, and that's the standard arena size for the Olympics. And so I was thinking if I made that 20-meter circle and then had paintings all around with the different colors of horses, like chestnut is orange and palomino is yellow, and blue could be dapple grays, or it could be blue roan. Purples could be like rose gray, and sometimes blacks or bays have the super dark blood bays. They have that purplish hue, and blacks reflect, like especially when you're washing them or something, they have the reflection of the sky. And there's just so many opportunities to show all the different colors of horses and different breeds and everything.
Yeah, and I just want to, for the listener, not many people know about this, is that there are only, in every breed, there's only 2 fundamental colors that make their coat. And so you're playing with that concept. It's a very, very cool concept you're playing with. And with this third dimension piece with a 20-meter circle. So everybody who is horse riders knows exactly what you're talking about. With those who are not, it's like everything's about a 20-meter circle when you lunge and when you're riding and training, everything's. So the 20-meter circle, you're creating a third dimension to this. And I'm thinking you're making even a kind of a performance art. It's the way you're describing it. Do you need, maybe I can help you out with some of the sound stuff, because that's what I love. But hey, it's so cool. So the color of the horses you're working on this. I think you mentioned, right? Is this something you're pitching to?
Yeah, so I'm taking this concept, the colors of the horse, to I was going to do it in Florida, where they have the winter season, because people are there for 3 to 4 months of the year, and it's such a big project. I just didn't want it to be up for 1 month, and that's usually how galleries do things, is you have an art show and then it's up for the month. And it was such a big idea. I thought, oh no, this has to be up for a while. And I live in Oregon. Florida is clear on the other side of the United States. So I thought, well, I was in Portugal teaching an art class, telling them about my idea, and one of the lawyers there, she was like, well, the LA Olympics, the Summer Olympics, are going to be in LA in 2028. It's on the same coast. Why don't you do it then? So I thought it just hit right. It felt really good. Like, oh yeah, that's a great way to share all the things I love about horses with a global community. And so and then I started researching, and there are about 2 to 2.5% of the world population that has anything to do with horses, that's actually involved with horses that are. And then apparently there are about 10% of the world population that are actually interested in horses, but have no idea how to get involved with horses. So I was thinking that if I could make it, with the color and the stories behind each painting, it would be an amazing place for people who want to know about horses. They could go learn about them and be introduced to them and all the things positive and wonderful about horses that we all love. Us horse crazy, the 2% of us. I was just thinking, if I believe horses could heal the world, So then it grew into that. So yes, I'm working on proposals, and I'm going to go down to LA and present it so it could be under the umbrella of what's going on with the Olympics.
Hey, my fingers are crossed. I think that would be just awesome. So you mentioned the 10% that are interested in the world population with horses. I personally think that number is growing. It's one of the reasons I launched this podcast. There's just so many people the consciousness is increasing, and the horses, that I think is that consciousness in the horses is increasing in us since they've been there for our entire journey. So it's, you mentioned horses, you always get a reaction. Doesn't matter who the person is. That's my experience. I want to come back a little bit to where you came from, because it's very interesting to me. Because this is so cool talking to you, because we got a little bit of overlap. I was in the architecture and engineering side for a little bit. And you mentioned you started your career in fashion design, somewhat by necessity and by making sure
practicality.
Yes, exactly, which is very, very wise of you, because we all know it's a hard journey, in the making a living in the horse world. But so you mentioned that, so you started in fashion. How did your career in fashion shape your work?
It's really interesting to think back on that. I believe that first growing up, my family is very artistic. So we had access to Play-Doh and paints and colors. And my grandmother was teaching me how to manage paint when I was 4 and 5 years old. And so I grew up with art. And also, my love for horses started when I was a toddler. And my dad was an engineer, very practical, and a lovely man, very well meaning. And he wanted his daughter to be independent and be able to support herself. So he thought that I should find something that wasn't a hobby. And that so fashion design seemed like the closest thing to me to art. And I just assumed that you would make money and could have horses. so, so then I got involved with fashion design, but I went down the road of the outdoor. So I worked for Royal Robbins and learned how to rock climb and whitewater kayak. And I think that the practicality of it was very good because I learned to pattern make and all that and problem solve. And so anything that I look at with the art or the horses, I have a can-do. Most horse people do, I think. Most of us all have to MacGyver something somehow, So there's that aspect of it in fashion design as well, because you're always under the gun. You have to get the next season out, and you're having your fashion shows or whatever, wear testing, getting the models, all the clothing to fit on the models and all that. So, there's a lot of stepping up to the plate and making it look good no matter what. And so I think some of that focus and ability to just time after time, season after season, you start to see very clearly what works and doesn't work. And I think I do that in my art. I'll literally paint over something, or I'll say, oh, that needs more highlights or more shadow, or I just am able to make decisions about, does it look right? I might be a bit of a perfectionist about it, but I like my horses to really look like the horses I'm painting.
We're going to have to backtrack big time. This is really freaking cool because I was out in Colorado and a whitewater kayaker and did not meet Royal Robbins, but I was like, he was one of my, idols. So Royal Robbins, for those who are not familiar with, he hung out with Yvon Chouinard, and Yvon Chouinard started Patagonia, and Royal Robbins started his own company. These guys were innovators in all senses of the word. I mean, in terms of the climbing, they were the big
blazing trails.
And you're hanging out with these. This does not sound my word. There's no accents in life. This isn't really incredible because they match your personality. You are blazing some trails here. And you met so in the fact that you're in fashion, those guys, they were designers and making stuff from the day one. They made their own rock climbing equipment. They made their own clothing, and you're hanging out with Royal Robbins, again, legendary. And I knew, of course, I knew who he was. I wore his clothing, and I was whitewater kayaking down the Grand and all sorts of fun places.
Wow.
Grand Canyon, yeah, right. Doing all sorts of hair boating, as we used to say. Class 5 stuff.
Wild and crazy. Yeah.
And a lot of off-river.
I'm not quite a daredevil like that, so I commend you.
With the stories that we can tell nowadays that we survived, but there's a lot of off-river antics, of course, too. But that practicality, you got that. That sounds like that's what I'm picking up on, and that really is. I'm watching as I see these beautiful images. There's a real practicality to this. And
just, really having to make decisions. Does it work or does it not? Because you learn, people either like it or they don't. So I kind of got a thick skin, I think, so, and also I don't have one style. I have a bunch of different, like with the Forest Boys, the images that I sent you, the Forest Boys are these Frisian stallions that live in Northern California. Laura Zugsta, she is an amazing photographer, and she took pictures of these 3 stallions living together in this amazing old growth forest in the redwoods. And I mean, just so inspirational to have someone actually allow their stallions to live together, and play and have relationships. And she caught such intimate moments. And her artwork, The Forest Boys, if you ever Google that, it's with the Z. Boy, she is something else, and so talented, and really gets the essence of the beautiful power of horses and the spirit. And I was so inspired by her. And so she allowed me to take some of her images and paint from them long ago, before she doesn't allow people to do that now. But I I just, with the Forest Boys, it's the power and the shape, and trying to do more of an abstract kind of painting. I actually finished that one when I was in France at the World Equestrian Games. I brought a painting to finish, and of course, I make everything more difficult than it has to be for my art. But I took a 4 by 5 foot painting and worked on that for the 2 weeks I was there, and finished it over there, and actually sold it over there. It was really funny. But the point being that I took that image then and played with it, with just blowing out the color and made it one color. And so in my colors of the horse, it'll be gradations of different paintings, with their own story. But I just took that Forest Boys as an example because it has really high contrast, and so you can still see the shadow and still see the shapes of the horses, even though they're one color. So that was sort of my point of trying to visualize how these paintings are going to roll around the 20-meter circle.
There's not only a practicality, but there's also, you have a real way of presenting it to a viewer. It's not just your imagination or I think this is your fashion coming through, in my opinion. But
yeah,
there is something else here I wanted to say. And the other one I'm pulling up right now is Pick Me. And so there's an emotion, and I want to hear first. I'll tell you there's an emotion coming through this as I see this piece called Pick Me. So do you have a message or a feeling that you hope to convey when you, or is it something just an afterthought or after?
I quite often in each of the paintings I paint, I either know the horse or have had an experience, and intentionally I want to relive that because it was so fun, So I quite often will, painting can be, if I'm able to hold on to that feeling and that joy, or that, some horse being a hilarious character, or just something that they shared or connected, that connection that you have with them. I just had a riding lesson today that was from Suzanne von Dietz. She's an amazing teacher, and she got me out of my horse's way. And oh my gosh, the balance, just that feeling that horses give you, like you have wings, I want to hang on to those because, like you said, it's not an easy life. And you were telling me earlier about, the work that it takes. You have to really work hard, and there's no way around it, but we love doing it because it's so worth it. And the same with the painting, it just, when I get that chance to share with somebody else that feeling or that connection or the character of the horse, showing them that they're not just a tool or an animal, they actually have personalities. It brings me great joy to share those things and have someone connect with that.
Yes, that feeling is definitely, I think, what becomes "quote unquote" addictive that you just described. Or we chase that feeling, whatever you want to call it. But that's it. I mean, this is what I'm looking at in Pick Me. I see a playfulness, and this is also the reason I started this podcast, is that we know these horses have emotions and intelligence. And this one I'm looking at, there's a little bit of, look at me, pick me, and a playfulness to it. He's his energy is very up there, but
Yeah.
not in a anxious way.
No,
And
he was cheeky.
yes, exactly. I get that right. And we love the jokesters. So many people, I think this is what so many people never get to learn their horse. So this makes me sad, but there's a lot, I feel like that's a lot of what's going on. We just put them in this rule, good jumper or whatever, but to really know your horse, that takes a little, you got to be willing to really learn. And then we humanize them with these different, like stubborn or lazy, but that's not how they think of themselves. But anyway, it's interesting because there's a lot of fun, playful, but then there's also another pensive. I'm getting that.
That one in particular, there was a herd of young horses. I was being toured around at this breeder's place in Portugal. He's no longer with us anymore, but he was showing off his herds, and that was a herd of younger horses, and they were out in pasture quite a distance away, and they were all sleeping. And this one horse, he was like, "Hark, there's people. Hey." So I just loved it that he was like, "Oh, excuse me." I mean, I swear, if I could have, I would have taken him home in a heartbeat. He was so funny. And so he, of course, came immediately right over to us, and everybody else lumbered over, just la, 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 la. And he was just like, "Hey, how you doing? What are you up to?"
I love it.
So he wanted us to pick him, and I was having a really hard, so I painted him when I got home because I missed him.
That's so cool. Yes, I love this. I love those characters. And, this is something new. One of your gifts is that you have exhibited in international horse shows as an American artist. And so you've got to meet a lot of horses and people from around the world. Do you feel like a rule that you have to advocate for as an American through your work? Is that Olympic Games is obviously an international crowd. Do you feel like you have is that something in your mindset about advocating for what the American breeds or what because there's a lot of mysticism in our part of the world about the Western cowboys and all that, and then the last truly we don't have any wild breeds, but I mean the last wild breeds, Mustangs that are slowly disappearing. Do you have any?
Well, I definitely, in my Colors of the Horse, will have there'll be 3 panels with Mustangs running, but there really are, like England, I just found out, had a herd of horses, and in Portugal, there's a herd of, I forget the name of them, Sorellis or something like that. I can't remember, but there's indigenous breed there. There's the Cameroon, horses, they manage them, but there are wild horses all over the world, and we happen to have the most amazing landscape and wildness to the United States. As far as advocating for actual American horse breeds, I'm not always, there are amazing horse breeders out there, but in general, Americans tend to take it a little too far, sometimes. But I think that it doesn't matter where you live. If you love horses and it's in your bones, it doesn't matter where you're from. I don't really feel an affinity just for the American, being an American or anything. I feel that it's more connecting, that horse people all over the world can relate to each other because we have this inner passion and this love and appreciation for horses. And many of us understand what they can teach us. And I mean, there's just so much self-awareness that I'm going through with my own mare that is just mind-blowing sometimes. And it's such a gift. It's incredible what they will do for us. And they've been with us. Like you said, we've built our whole society on horseback pretty much up until the 40s or whatever. So I don't really feel like there's an American necessarily horse.
Yeah.
There's different breeds all over the world, and some people stick to the practicality and the use and the health and the function of horses, and some people take it to extremes, and just like in dogs, they start to suffer because of the extreme shapings.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's kind of a trick question. Well, not purposely, but I mean, you are a spokesperson for the horses, or an advocate for the horses. It seems to me, because really the color of the horses is exactly that. It's that is this oneness. Because technically, we mentioned there's two colors for all the form the coat of all the horses, but it's really just one. Because it's just black's not a color, it's really just
Right.
red. So it's like this oneness. And then
Right.
When we talk about the wild Mustangs, which again, really just a feral horse of a conglomeration of breeds that were brought over from Europe, mostly, and the thoroughbred. That's another
Right.
from England, and with Arab breed and a couple other type of breeds that made
England, yes.
that made that the thoroughbred breed so popular. So we're imported,
Right.
we're imported here. But anyway, so yeah, this is I think you're
Right.
I think you're onto something with your title of your show.
I like your point that they really are. I like your point that really they are all one. I love that. That's great.
We've talked about this with other people on this podcast. What's about breeds, but what's the perfect breed, kind of thing. Everybody gets stuck on that, instead of looking at that perfect, that relationship. And so this is why we're kind of tying this together. Why is the relationship between humans and horses becoming such a hot topic for everyone? I feel, not just horse people. Any insights on that?
I think a lot of us are looking for that connection with nature again, with the earth, with something bigger, and different animals like dolphins and elephants and horses. Horses happen to be, they're all sentinel. How do you say that?
Yes.
Sentinel beings.
Yeah. Sentient. They're both. They're sentient, which you have that intelligence, but they're sentinels as well.
Sentinel.
Yes. Go ahead.
And they have, thank you. Yeah, no, they have, because they've been with us, I think we relate to them instinctually. And they have so much to share and teach us about ourselves, like I've said before. But there's this connection that they offer, and a wisdom, the way that they relate in herds, the herd dynamics, the appropriateness, if allowed to develop properly from babies being out in herds with other moms instead of just being spoiled by their one mom. As long as they've gone through the growing up stages with the appropriate socialization, they definitely have amazing lessons to teach us about being grounded, and they're contained, but yet they are so full of power. And I admire how my mare in particular, she is so loving, but so wild and so powerful. And she chooses to be nice to me and chooses to come to me when I turn her out in pasture. And, it's not about treats. It's this primal connection. And it's really to share that. And like a horse can look at you. I love painting eyes, because the horse can look at you and you feel like they're staring straight into your soul, and they can see you for who you are. And there's no hiding. You just be you around them. And it's such a beautiful feeling of pure acceptance.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness. I just think horses are really special. And so maybe if they can share that, and, there's been other trainers that have taken it to another level with business, showed corporations how the horse doesn't like being pushed and all that kind of stuff. And you have to invite them in, and different ways of communicating. There's so many levels of learning that can happen with horses.
You nailed it. And you went in deep too, by the way. I like that. You're very thoughtful. So that's, you pick your words carefully. I can see or hear. Progress, not perfection. We're just a little, share what feels right, and that's what they teach us. And they're, like you said it, they're truth tellers. They're not mirrors. They just, they'll pick out what we're hiding. They find it so quickly. So if you have a little bit of fear, they're going to find it. If you have,
we all have our own path, and they'll put you right on one.
You got it. If you think you know it all, hold on to your seat.
Yes. Oh man, with the art and the horses, it's like some days I'm just like, Kimry, what have you done to yourself? Because it's a constant learning all the time, and it's never. There's always more. There's no end to it. It's beautiful, but it's very humbling.
Yes, it's always amazing to me that I can get a halter on a horse and they'll actually walk with me. It's like, what? Why are you even walking with me? But it's so friggin' cool when it happens. And anyway, this final image I wanted to share, Rowley's herd. And this kind of ties into this last question too. Like, what advice would you give to someone who wants to understand the deeper capabilities of horses? And then looking at this, I'd love to hear a little bit about the background of this one as well.
What's really fun about that is so when I went to the World Equestrian Games in Normandy, France, like you mentioned, I was the only American artist there. And I had a very colorful wall and lots of different styles. And so it was it was entertaining to watch people. Some people would just jump back. They'd be looking at all the nice colors of, like, most of them were really toned down. Or my friend Frederique is an amazing painter, Frederique Laverne, and she does black backgrounds and then does these stunning horses, mostly Iberian, but everything was very put together. And then you get to my wall and people would either love it or they would just shy away from it. It was so funny. And so Rowley's herd, my friend Leanne, I was training at her barn, and I was working with Mustangs and quarter horses and Welsh cob for a while, all different kinds. And she had miles, and so she offered to pay for my plane ticket to get over to the World Equestrian Games, because it was something like $40,000 to get my artwork over there. It was so insane, and with all the VATs and all that kind of stuff. And so she said that if I painted her a painting, then I would. So she came with me to France, and so when we were walking through some of the museums and through the churches together, and all the old walls and the whitewashing, years and years and hundreds of years and thousands of years of stone, and then thinking of the cave paintings. And then she saw one painting that had been kind of crumbly, and it was of this white horse that had sort of been worn off of a knight and his white horse, and it was very loose. And so that painting is kind of a culmination of our whole trip and her herd. So she had a herd of 4 horses at the time. And I kept wanting to paint a 5th horse, and I didn't know why. And it turns out that before I got there, she had to put down another horse, and he wanted to be part of the painting. And so that's how the 5 horses got on there instead of just 4.
I love that. So this is what I'm going to just try to interpret. I asked you earlier, what's your advice for somebody who wants to just learn the deeper capabilities? Leave space for that 5th horse. I like that one. This one horse you don't know.
Just be curious and do what feels right to you. Just if it doesn't feel right, then there are plenty of other ways of doing things. Everybody has their own way. So really follow your intuition, and you will learn and grow and connect with horses so much faster than trying to stick around with something that doesn't feel right.
Perfect.
Be curious.
Perfect.
Just be curious.
That's I love that. That's what gets me going too. I appreciate that, you saying that. Yeah, and the horses appreciate it. they really have this really beautiful curiosity. You are doing really good work. So to find more about you, your website?
Yeah, if you Google Kimry, Kimry, pretty much I come up or a town in Russia.
Okay. Okay.
So luckily my mom gave me a unique name.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Hey, okay. And you're out in the Oregon coast, right? Or no, inland. You're in the mountains.
In Central
Yeah. Yeah.
Oregon. Yeah, I live near the mountains, and being out in nature is definitely, I mean, there are complementary colors everywhere you look. And so I get a lot of inspiration from the mountains and the grounding from being in nature. And we do tons of trail riding out here. It's so beautiful.
Nice.
Half an hour before this podcast, I was out on a horse. So.
You're living the dream. Okay, we're gonna be following you to see your journey to the Olympics. It's gonna happen. The horses want you there.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. If you look up on Facebook or Instagram, I have started pages. It's called Colors of the Horse, and you can try to find those. But I'll be posting lots more information, and I have a presentation March 17th that I'll be doing live that is introducing. March 17th is the Lunar New Year of the Fire Horse. And so the February 17th, I'm sorry, February 17th.
Yes.
Yeah, is the start of the new lunar year. And so that's the year of the fire horse on February 17th. So I wanted to get some paintings done for the colors of the horse and do a presentation about what it's about and how you can get involved and what's the purpose and all that kind of stuff. So look for that live broadcast on probably around 5:30 on February 17th.
Oh, cool. All right, send me the link and I'll put it in the show's notes. And yeah, you're obviously talking about the Chinese New Year. So this is the end of we're leaving the year of the snake and going into the year of the fire horse. So very interesting times to be around.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm so grateful, and I really want to thank you again.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to learn more about you, and I really enjoy and appreciate what you're doing with your art, with your podcast, and getting the word out there. And also, I can't wait to learn more about your tuning forks and your singing bowls and all that. So.
All right. Well, let's try. My pleasure. Let's see how we can collaborate so we can do something
that would
together.
Be cool.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. To be continued.
Thank you.
Thanks again for listening. If you like the show, please share this with your friends and family. Much appreciated. Please check me out at my Substack, which is The Centaur by Camron Adibi. And there you can learn about some free offerings. And again, thanks so much for your support. Stay tuned for the next episode on the Centaur Podcast.
God.